Hey Stitchers! My name is Chris. Welcome back to my sewing space, Unsewcial. So I've decided to make YouTube my newest sewing space for 2024. And so if this is your first time here with me, then I'm happy to have you here. If by chance you have seen any of my other videos, then welcome back. Now, I did share in a video or two ago about my sewing plans for 2024 using the Make9 hashtag. And one of my sewing categories for 2024 is to make a button-down shirt. Now, I did share in that video that I'm considering making the Viki Sews Cynthia Shirt as my pattern under the button-down category, or alternatively, the Grain Line Archer button-down. So I have definitively now decided that I'm going to go ahead and make the Viki Sews Cynthia Shirt using this gorgeous fabric, that I shared with you during a video on my Style Maker fabric haul. So I'll go ahead and try to link that video so you can refer back to it just in case you've missed it. So I want to make my Viki Sews shirt using this fabric. I do have an idea that I'm playing with at the moment to do the sleeve portion in like a chiffon or organza fabric, just to create just an additional layer of funk and uniqueness to my pattern make. Now, the Viki Sews pattern, I think I've chosen a size 42 and a height 3. So the upside to Viki Sews patterns is that they do have different height structures. I think they have 4 different height ranges, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I fall, I think, in the height 3. The downside to Viki Sews patterns is that you only get the width sizes, just one size. I do prefer patterns that have nested sizing because I do like to go ahead and grade my patterns between sizes, especially between my shoulder area and my bust area. But that's not going to be a possibility for this pattern, but it is designed to be an oversized shirt. So I think that the fitting adjustments can be done like on a whim. Usually I'm a toile girl. I do like to go ahead and make a toile, especially with more fitted garments, but I think I can easily skip the toile for the Viki Sews Cynthia shirt just because it's designed to be quite oversized. So I have gone ahead and I did print my pattern. I stuck it together and I rough cut my pattern pieces, and I've had them stored up in this manila envelope. So I'm going to go ahead now and take out my pieces and head to my cutting table so that I can do some flat pattern measurements. Now, you guys, the first thing I like to do when I'm sewing up a pattern is to measure. Now, I like to measure my own body and I like to measure the main pattern pieces. I just find that that helps to make the fitting adjustments a lot easier for me when I get around to doing them, especially when I skip the toile. So I pull the round piece. I'm actually looking for my front piece so I can show you guys what the pattern piece looks like. So this is the front pattern piece for the Viki Sews Cynthia. As I said, I have gone ahead and cut it out quite roughly because when I make flat pattern adjustments, I like to have the extra paper so that I can go back in and true up my seam lines. So this is what the pattern piece looks like. And when I hold it up to myself, again, just very roughly, you can see, I hope, that the pattern piece hits me mid-thigh. Now, the pattern is designed to hit mid-thigh, but for me, I don't want it to be so long. So one of the first adjustments I'm going to make is to go ahead and cut this pattern apart so that I can shorten it quite considerably. I'm thinking that I want it to hit just about here. I'm hoping that you can see. I want it to hit just about here at my upper thigh or the high hip. Is that the high hip area or the upper thigh? And so I'm thinking I need to shorten it by this much. I'm going to average that this is about 5 inches. Now, I'm not going to take it for granted that you guys know how to adjust patterns. I have a habit of adjusting my patterns, and I think I've pretty much always adjusted my patterns. Since I started sewing, there have been very few instances where I can make a pattern right out of the envelope. Now, for me, sourcing fabric and getting it here to me in Montserrat is quite challenging and quite expensive. So I want to try and get the best fit that I can for my body. Does that mean that I get perfection? Absolutely not. Hardly ever do any of my garments turn out perfect. There's always room for improvement. But I do like to try and secure the best fit that I can possibly secure at my stage of sewing. So when I was a beginner, I gave myself a lot more grace. Now that I consider myself an intermediate sewer, I do like to take just a little bit more time just to try and to get a good fit. So the first thing I'm going to do, as I said, is to shorten this pattern quite considerably, about 5 inches. Now when I do that, instead of just cutting the pattern off, let's say right along this line, I'm going to divide up the length and shorten lines in 2 or 3 spots, just so it makes it easier to true my pattern line. And because I'm making such a big shorten adjustment, if I was just going to shorten it like a ½ inch or an inch or so, then I would have just made one cut line and shortened the pattern that way. But because I want to take a considerable amount off of this pattern, I still want to maintain the proportions that the designer had in mind, and so I'm going to go ahead and split up my length and shorten lines at different areas. Now this pattern does not actually have a marking for lengthen, shorten here. Now a lot of the indie patterns do indicate where you can easily lengthen or shorten a pattern. This pattern does not, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick 3 spots where I can go ahead and shorten my pattern. Now on a side note, I am quite petite between my shoulder area and my torso area. It's quite short waist. I'm quite short-waisted and quite petite in this area, even though I am kind of tall. I am 5 foot 8.5 inches. I'm not sure what that is in centimeters for those of you guys who use that system, but the average pattern drafter, I think, drafts for about 5'5". Like I said, this pattern has actually been drafted for somebody this height because I've chosen the height structure that best references my current height. But I like to shorten my patterns a ¼ inch between the shoulder and the bust line. Now I do also have forward rotating shoulders, and a lot of the times when I make up my patterns, at least in the past, I found that they sort of slipped back and always felt too high on my neckline, and the shoulder seam would ride backward. Now I figured out a while back that when I shorten my pattern just a ¼ inch between my shoulder and my bust area, that has improved the fit of my bodices significantly. And it is a pattern adjustment that I typically make even before I do a toile. So on this pattern, it's not going to be any different. I am going to go ahead and make a ¼ inch length adjustment, sorry, I beg your pardon, between my shoulder line and my bust line, which is somewhere below the arm side. So I'm just going to cut right across, like somewhere around here, and shorten my pattern about a ¼ inch up here. Now once I'm finished sewing up this pattern, then I'll see if a ¼ inch was enough. In fact, I might just base my pattern together just to get an idea of how much improvement that has made to the length adjustment. Like I said, this is designed to be an oversized shirt, so I'm not that worried that I'm skipping the toile, and I feel confident enough to make that adjustment. It might turn out that I probably need to make a bigger adjustment just because this pattern has been drafted for my height, and like I said, I am pretty petite up here, but I don't think it's going to bother me too much, again, because this is an oversized pattern. So I usually also have to make a sway back adjustment. Let me see if I can find the back piece. I think this might be it. Right, this is it. So I'm making the length adjustment on my front, and I'm going to make the corresponding length adjustment on my back, but not the length adjustment between the neckline and the bust area on the back. Obviously your bust is not on the back, but usually when you make an adjustment to the front, you want to make the same adjustment on the back. But the particular adjustment that I spoke of, the ¼ inch up at the top of my body, is just to the front of my pattern piece. But the 5 inches that I told you I want to take off the main body of my shirt, I'm going to go ahead and mimic that on this back pattern piece. Now, I think this shirt is designed to be shorter in the front and longer in the back. I'm not certain that I want to keep that look just yet, just because I intend to wear this shirt tucked in quite a bit into my skirts for court and that sort of thing Well, not for court actually, because this color I won't be able to wear to court, but I can wear it to work on the days that I don't have court. So I'm still going to make this shirt with work in mind. So for now, I'm going to just take off the 5 inches, and then I'll think about it just a little bit more, whether I want to keep the longer in the front, shorter in the back situation. Now I'm also going to go ahead and make a sway back adjustment. Now for those of you who are unfamiliar, a sway back adjustment is an adjustment that's made to the center back of your pattern piece, because your length between your neckline and your back, the narrowest part of your back, is shorter than what the pattern calls for. Now I do have quite an exaggerated dip right at the small of my back, and that often means that patterns end up too long in the back bodice. And so for my shirt pattern, I am going to go ahead and make a 1/4 inch sway back adjustment. Now on this channel, I do plan to share with you like specific fit adjustments. I'm going to do a video, hopefully sometime soon, I beg your pardon, just demonstrating how to go about doing a sway back adjustment. And I might very well just use this pattern and video the process so that I can come back and share with you guys in a different episode that particular fit adjustment. Now, other than those length adjustments, usually when I make up patterns, I have to do a 1/2 inch sloping shoulder adjustment, which just lowers the slope of the neckline to accommodate my sloping shoulders. Now, a lot of patterns are designed for somebody with a more squared out shoulder, but because I've got such terrible posture, you guys, I tend to have sloping shoulders, which means that I typically end up with too much fabric sitting on top of my shoulder. Now, because this top is designed to be a drop shoulder top, like it has a slight drop shoulder and then the sleeve is attached, I'm going to go ahead and skip that adjustment for my first version of this pattern. If I find once I make it up that it's a little bit uncomfortable, then the next time I make up this pattern, then I'll be sure to make that adjustment. But again, I'm not worried, simply because this is designed to be an oversized shirt, and if shit hits the fan, I can just wear this shirt like unbuttoned over my vest and jeans and call it a day. So those are the adjustments I have in mind that I want to make, and then I can get busy sewing up the Viki Sews Cynthia Shirt as part of my Make 9 2024 plans. So that's all I wanted to talk to you about today, you guys. And if you think you might be interested in seeing how this project turns out, be sure to come back and check on my videos to see when I've come back with an update. I do plan to do an update video to share with you guys like some of the process and obviously the final look, and then a review of this pattern and this pattern company, because as I said, it is a new to me pattern company. So be sure to keep on watching for that. Now, I do like to share snippets of the process over on my Instagram, and if you want to keep up to date with me as I make this pattern, just to see the little snippets when I'm cutting it out, when I'm sewing it up, what I'm doing, and that sort of thing, be sure to go over and follow me on Instagram at Unsewcial, also on TikTok, on Threads, and on my blog www.unsewcial.com. Any information that you guys want with my sewing makes can be found in any of these places, but I will be sure to come back here on YouTube and share with you guys my final Viki Sews Cynthia Shirt, and hopefully in between now and then I'll have an update for you on my Cynthia Shirt pattern. So until next time, peace out, you guys.